Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Losses Above Replacement, the greatest baseball podcast to grace your ears. I'm today's host, Mathias Altman Kurosaki, and with me, as always, we have my amazing co-hosts, Ryan Splash Potts and Alex Clark. Gentlemen, first things first, it is Memorial Day as of this recording. How are we doing on this Monday afternoon?
It's a day of remembrance here, and
Yes, it is.
just making sure that I'm doing good. Honestly, I have a really good day planned, but at the same time, it's make sure to take a moment and just remember the people that did fight for things that we have in our day-to-day life, and it's for the people that gave the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, amen to that. I'm having a horrible, no good, very bad, rotten, 24 hours. So that's great.
Yeah, we'll talk about why in a moment. And again,
We'll get to that. It's that crazy rain that was going on in the Midwest. Well, it's reached the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
The Mets got rained out today. I looked outside my window for about 30 seconds, and it was raining in sheets. But at least yesterday was kind of fun for me. We went and celebrated my nephew's birthday, so that was good.
Solid.
My brother made a nice chocolate cake for him. We had some pizza. I tried pineapple on pizza for the first time. It's not as bad as I thought, but I still feel like it's sacrilegious as a New Yorker to have that.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I will say it's not bad, but I'm not going to seek it out. So if for any pineapple pizza truthers, that's my take. Okay.
Can we have an aside? I think it should be mandatory that all 30 teams play on Memorial Day and the 4th of July.
I agree.
I'm okay with that.
That's a baseball holiday. I understand it's a national holiday, but that's a baseball holiday.
A baseball holiday?
Yeah, because the NFL has Thanksgiving, the NBA has Christmas. I feel like the summer holidays.
Hockey has New Year's Day.
New Year's Day, yes, and college football too.
Yep.
Yes.
But it's not for every team that'll play on those days, though.
That is true. But those other sports are a little different because MLB usually every team plays. Yeah. Memorial Day is the rare day that some teams don't play on Mondays. It's just strange. I think every team should play.
I know that the Mets didn't play on Memorial Day last year because they were coming back from a West Coast swing, and then I know that there was a 2-year stretch where there was 1 year the Mets were playing 4th of July in Toronto, and then the next year they didn't play on 4th of July, and I was like, what in the world is going on? That was confusing.
There's 5 days that need to happen. Cincinnati needs to host opening day.
Yep.
New York and Philly need to host on the 4th of July, both New York teams and Philly, and DC as well.
Mm-hmm.
DC, yeah.
Why are the Nationals in Atlanta today?
That's weird.
That is so. They play next week in Washington. Just swap the series.
Exactly.
They normally do the 11 a.m. starts on 4th of July, which I know is, and I know like the Red Sox are always home on Patriots Day, which makes sense.
So I know that
there was one summer where I went and saw the Mets and Phillies play on both Memorial Day and the 4th of July in New York. So,
like you were saying earlier, though, Mac, with the reason why they didn't play on that time is from the long trip. Not stopping my Mariners today as they're playing the Astros after traveling from Washington, D.C.
That series did not go particularly well for the M's.
No, it does not. I'm glad we're not talking about it because, God, it made me angry.
Jesse Winker season, but Eddie Rosario hit a pitch that was in his batter's box.
Oh, yeah.
For a home run. Mm-hmm. That is the most Eddie Rosario thing I've ever seen. So
I do find it absolutely hilarious that Seattle does not score almost at all in the first 2 games, and then the final game unloads for 9.
Yeah. Including
no sense whatsoever.
Average Braves
5 in the last 2 innings.
Average depression moment.
Yeah.
I love you, Ems.
It was. Also the AL West is confusing. I know that the Mariners did take 2 from the Yankees to start that road trip. To start that that series. I forgot the road trip began in Baltimore. But anyways,
I just need to say, how the hell do you take 2 from New York, one of the best teams by record in baseball, and then lose 2 or 3 to the Nationals?
I mean, look, I watched the Mets take 2 of 3 from the Dodgers in Los Angeles, and then lose 2 of 3 to the Marlins. So, yeah, baseball is such
the Braves shut out the Cubs 3 times in a week, and then lost 2 out of 3 to the Pirates, and they weren't throwing Skeens or Jones.
Well, and like the Reds have a winning record against the Dodgers and Phillies this year, and then are like 10 games under 500 against the rest of the league.
Hey, the Rockies, they just took 2 out of 3 from the Phillies.
And they swept the Rangers.
Yeah.
You know, their first series win of the year was a sweep. Yeah, no, and the Padres are the only team that can beat the Dodgers. Yeah, baseball is a crazy sport.
Baseball's weird, man.
Yeah. So, anyways, unfortunately, like Splash alluded to, we have some less than stellar news to begin our episode, which is that Ronald Acuña Jr. has torn his ACL once again in a different knee. Just not, I know that Acuña was not off to a good start this year, but I mean, he's one of those guys who I feel like always makes things happen. And it's just not good for the sport, really, as a whole. It's bad for the Braves. It's bad for the sport. I mean, what do you guys take from this? I mean, it was a non-contact injury, which sucks. The Braves, I mean, the Phillies have a 6-game lead in the division right now. Like, where do the Braves go from here? Which is sort of my broad question.
Well, if there is a bright side, you have one day that Acuña misses 8 innings. The next day, you get Austin Riley back, and you get Sean Murphy back. So, on one hand, it's very sad that Murphy and Acuña play one game together, one at-bat for Murphy together, in fact. But now we are 50 games into the season. Murphy is back. Austin Riley is back. So, if there's any solace, the Braves are getting 2 All-Stars back as one goes on the shelf for the rest of the season. Internal options, they have Forrest Wall in AAA and JP Martinez in AAA. The jury's still out on if these players are quad A types or if they are actual major leaguers. Forrest Wall has been tremendous in spring training and tremendous in AAA. He is more of the speed element. It doesn't hit for much power, but he does have the speed element, and he's probably a better defensive player than Ronald is. Then JP Martinez is more in the Acuña mold. Obviously, you're not replacing Acuña, but if you want that power, speed, leadoff type, Martinez is more of that guy. There's a couple home runs in Gwinnett this year. Not a great pitcher's park, so look at their stats with a grain of salt. Not a great pitcher's park. Has some home runs, has some power, can steal some bases. So that's what you're looking at if you want to replace the spot. As of today, it looks like Atlanta is going to go with a Jared Kelenic and Adam Duvall playing. So instead of a platoon, they're playing every game, even against lefties for Kelenic, even against righties for Duvall, which I like that. You get the upgrade defensively with Duvall in right, and Kelnic's been great defensively, probably a Gold Glove-ish player. But it's heartbreaking. And it's heartbreaking for the player. It's heartbreaking for the team. It's heartbreaking for the man, Ronald. Like, you read the Players Tribune piece, and there's not many guys in baseball, if any, that care more about baseball than Ronald. And he, was the best player in the National League, then tore his ACL, and then was playing winter ball, playing center field for Venezuela in the World Baseball Classic. Then goes and wins the MVP, then does all the gala stuff for MLB awards, and then goes back and plays winter ball. He's an MVP. He is on a $100 million contract. He's one of the best, if not the best player in baseball. And he's back in his home country playing winter ball because he loves baseball. He loves the sport. He wants to play every single day. He wants to take every single at-bat, every single plate appearance. And for the second time in 4 years, he's done for the majority of a season. And he's played 456 games out of 810 in the last 5 years. Part of that's COVID, and part of that's 2 ACLs. And it just sucks, man. Like, it's not quite a what if situation, but it's more akin to like a Griffey or a Mantle or a Trout. Obviously, those guys are better players than Ronald, but it's more like this guy could have been one of the special players ever. But he did win an MVP. He does have 240 homer seasons. He does have 196 steals before he turns 27. And he has this great... You saw it. You saw it last year. You saw a 9 F4 season. You saw an MVP, a unanimous MVP award season. And it's like, it's tough to ask him to get back to that. He was playing like the MVP of the National League in 2021. And then he loses half the season to the ACL. It's like, well, is he ever going to get back to that? And he got back and got potentially a little bit better than that. And now it's just, I feel like as a baseball community, we've been robbed from perhaps the single most talented player in the franchise that has been around since the 1870s. That Chipper Jones said that on a broadcast last year, that there is no single Atlanta Brave more talented than Ronald Acuña. And he has 2 ACL tears, missed 3/4 of a season with COVID. It just sucks, man.
Yeah, no, I completely empathize with that. Just because, like, you brought up another name here during that, that's Griffey. The guy is my favorite player of all time. I mean, I got his number tattooed on my arm. But, like, it sucks because you said it's not a what if. It kind of is. Like, what if this didn't happen? We're always going to be asking ourselves that question. And Braves fans and Splash of age 70 will be asking that what if and just coming up with the scenarios. But it just sucks. Like, there's no other really way to say it other than it sucks. Because right now, you take this guy that is legitimately, there's only really one fault to his game, and that's defense. And even
part of that's because he tore his first ACL in the outfield.
Yeah. He was a pretty good defender before the first ACL injury.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was a solid defender in center, but you had Pache, so you move him over into right, and you have Michael Harris now. So it's like, okay, well, yeah.
And even after the ACL, he still was one of the most electrifying players in the game. Here we go. We talk about electrifying players. We talk about guys like Julio, like Aaron Judge, we'll talk about later. Guys that truly revitalize an entire franchise and truly can become the face of that franchise. That's what Acuña is. I'm not going to say was. That's what Acuña is still. The one thing that will always scare me is the fact that now this is the second ACL tear. This is not the first. There are times where it's a freak accident and it can happen. When it happens twice, there's worry. There is some worry there. And I know for myself, having ACL injuries, that when you have that first one, you're always going to be a bit worried that it's going to happen again. You're always going to have that bit of doubt. And I hope for his sake that he doesn't. The one little glimmering bright spot for him on this is that because this is now his second time, he knows what rehab is going to take. He knows what it is going to take to get him back and better than ever. It's about whether or not, not about whether or not he's going to do it, because obviously he's going to, but it's just about grinding until you get to that point and grinding to get yourself back on the field. And I agree with you, Splash. He's one of the guys that loves baseball the most, probably the take two. He is probably the guy who loves baseball more than almost anyone on the planet. And I think that love of the game is going to carry him to get through this recovery rehab project here, because he loves the game. He wants to be out there every single day. He's going to be willing to put in the work to do that for every single day. He's done this before. He knows what it takes. I will forever be worried now, especially now that both knees have had this, because when I had my first one, my first one was my right knee. And I remember I leaned a lot on my left while I was recovering the right, and that damaged the left one. So then the left one then got torn, and the right one and it becomes that cycle that you have to keep on strengthening your body, strengthening your legs, strengthening the muscles around the legs, just keep them stable and solid. Here. For Acuña, he's going to do that. And I can't wait to see him back, because again, like Chipper said, like you said, Splash, there's nobody on this Braves team that is as talented as Acuña. Acuña is an amazing ball player. I hate watching him play against the Mariners. I love watching when he's playing against anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, really, I remember when the Braves called him up for the first time. It was sort of a rare dark period for the franchise. The Braves have always obviously been like sort of like, I don't know if at the time they were necessarily like the number one rival for the Mets, but I know like when I was growing up, they were. Then it was kind of the Phillies, but then like it was the Braves again. And I remember Acuña, they had 4 straight losing seasons, I believe, at that point, not really coming close to the playoffs. And then the first year they call them up, they win the division. They've won the division ever since. And I mean, I just think, guys like, in other sports, Derrick Rose, a guy who won an MVP at a young age, and then the injury bug seemed to get him every single year. And then for my team, I mean, David Wright, I mean, a completely different type of injury, but he had a back injury that robbed him of being a Hall of Famer. I think, I'm curious, first of all, to see how the Braves work to make a contingency plan, because I remember in 2021 they were able to sort of piece it together with guys like Jock Peterson and Eddie Rosario and Jorge Soler. Now I wonder, will they make similar types of moves? Will they, heck, Eddie Rosario and Jock Peterson are rentals once again. Maybe they go for those type of guys, or maybe they try to go for a more big ticket item, sort of as insurance. So I'm curious about that, and I really want to see what happens with Acuña recovering, because I remember 2022, his first season sort of back from that injury, he wasn't quite himself. Then he recovered in 2023 and had a generational year. So I really do hope he recovers. Yeah, I know, 40-70. Like, I don't know when we're going to see that next. So I really do want to see him back on the field. I think it's good for baseball when he's on the field. So I do hope his leg gets better. But anyways, any other comments on Acuña before we move on?
If there's one thing I want to see the Braves try, I would like to see Sean Murphy hit leadoff, because he's the only guy on the team that draws walks. It feels like Olsen and Ozuna do as well.
That'd be an interesting strategy.
They're not going to go full Schwarber with it, but I kind of want to see Murphy bat leadoff. I don't think Harris. Yeah. I don't think Ozzy or Harris or Kelnick draw enough walks or have. I don't want to see the plate discipline to do it. They could all run a high batting average besides maybe Kelnick, but they have some really cruddy at bats sometimes. And Murphy may not hit for a high average, but I know he's going to have a good at bat, a good plate appearance if it's a walker.
That's actually the first, because I don't necessarily think of Murphy as a leadoff guy, but I feel like he's more
of Carlos Santana as a leadooff guy either.
Yeah, then again, yeah, Santana batted leadoff, Schwarber batted leadoff still. I guess I don't know, the whole leadoff position has been the evolution of that spot in the order. It used to be always just for the speedy guys like the Juan Pierre types.
High batting average, high speed.
But now you got guys like Schwarber batting leadoff. I remember the Braves batted Soler leadoff for a while.
Yeah. Like, it worked too.
And Rosario was batting leadoff the series before.
Yeah, Rosario, like it's interesting. I remember looking at that for an article once. It's like, I remember, the Mets up until like a week ago, Brandon Nimmo was like the everyday leadoff hitter, but now he's batting third because he's the team's best hitter with runners in scoring position. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
I remember
building a lineup is an art.
Yeah, well, I remember that 2-week stretch what Schwarber had when he was on the Nationals, where the Nats moved him to the leadoff spot, and then he hit like 16 homers in the last 2 weeks of the month. It's like every time he swung the bat, the ball went over the fence. It was crazy. But speaking of guys who are doing that right now, Aaron Judge and his New York Yankees. The Yankees are on an absolute tear. And what more can we say about Aaron Judge? I've said this before, like obviously being a Mets fan, can't really root for the Yankees, but Aaron Judge is one guy I always find myself rooting for. This month, after only hitting 207 with a 754 OPS in April/March. He has a 938 slugging percentage, not OPS, slugging percentage this month with 11 home runs and a 1443 OPS through 24 games in May. Alex, your team just got done facing the Yankees last week. Give me your take on Aaron Judge, because this guy is he human? I'm not even sure.
No, he's not. He is not human. No, Aaron Judge. So there's a not real stat that I like to have. It's very much subjective stat, but it's fear. There is fear in baseball, and I will 100% die on the hill saying that players that can make the other team fear you are better and will make your team better. Aaron Judge is a player that other teams fear. You have to game plan around him. I mean, there's one thing I'm going to bring up to, and this should probably explain my point better than anything else. When Judge was on the tear to break the record for the Yankee home runs of the season, right? It was insane to watch how many times he was getting walked. And it wasn't even pitching around. It was just, throw the intentional pass. No, not even going to do it. Nope. And it was always funny because ESPN would always have like, oh, hey, quick, live looking on Aaron Judge's next at bat. Oh, intentional walk. Okay, back to your programming. And it's like, okay, there's always that tease. But the fact that you're getting a guy that right now has been hitting the ball to where every time that he swings the bat, you are confident that that ball is going to be launched. Like, we haven't seen a power hitter like that recently. We haven't. We have not seen guys that you are like certain that if you hear bat hit ball, that ball is going to be in the next state over. That's what Aaron Judge brings to a team. His presence makes everyone else around him better by other teams fearing him. Because on top of it, if he hits a home run, boom, that's 1-0. Or if there's nobody on. If you walk him, now you just added to his on-base percentage. He's a decent runner too. And you now put people on base, as like him on base, for the other dangerous hitters in the Yankee lineup to bring in more runs. That's what I was always scared about when I was watching Seattle take on the Yankees, was that every time that Judge came up, it was a dangerous situation. 100%. Like every time he came up, it felt like it was bases loaded, nobody out. That you were clenched the entire time, just hoping that he would either strike out, fly out, or ground out. If he hit the ball and it went in the air, you were confident it was almost always gone. There were a couple times where he kept it on the warning track. This dude just mashes the ball. Looking at here, we have it on screen right now, the Baseball Savant page for him. Tell me one bad thing that he does.
Look at the rolling ex-woba. That's off the chart. That is
literally broke Statcast.
What is that?
Yeah.
A 615 expected woba. What is that?
Oh my gosh. But that's what we're saying here. Legitimately, do you see this much red on a Baseball Savant page? That red equals fear. Red equals fear on this one. And watching him play, if you're an opposing pitcher, how do you not pitch around him? If you give this guy a ball right down the middle, you are asking yourself to get taken out of the game. I mean, I was happy to leave the series just so I didn't have to see guys like Judge, Soto, and Stanton all in the same day.
That's the scary part, is that you can try to pitch carefully to Judge, or you can try to pitch carefully to Soto, but you'll have to face one or the other immediately after.
You have to face at least one, yeah.
If you try to pitch carefully to the next guy, you can face Giancarlo Stanton, who maybe his numbers aren't as sparkling as Judge or Soto, but when that dude makes contact, it's normally like 115 miles per hour or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
he hit one to dead center against Seattle. that I watched that ball fly it, everyone knew from the word go that ball was gone. Like through the TV, you could hear the crack of the bat. That had that perfect sound to it.
Yeah, no, it's scary how good those guys are, really.
This is just, I don't want to say unprecedented because, like, I was born when Barry Bonds was alive, right?
Same. Yep.
Actually, he's still alive, but when he was a baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
But we are having real life conversations that Aaron Judge's peak is better than Mike Trout's, and you like look, you hear that, and you're like grimace. You're like, right? Aaron Judge has a 190 OPS plus since 2022. A 195 OPS plus since 2022 began. That is a 1.069, very nice OPS. 653 slug, a 416 on base percentage. Aaron Judge is absurd. And we had the Baseball Savant profile up. That's all red. He has a 470 expected WOBA right now. That's better than he had the last 2 seasons. That's better than Ronald Acuña had last year. And Acuña had a historically like crazy red page. That's better than what Ohtani does, what Jordan does, what Soto does. It is just absurd, the sort of power that Judge has. And we love to poke fun at the cheap shot, Yankee short porch home runs. And he had one of those the other day. That was like an out in the other 29 ballparks. Yeah, absolutely. It was still barreled. It still had an expected batting average over 500, even a lazy fly ball. And Aaron Judge is just putting a charge into everything that eats, sleeps, or breathes. This is, for my money, the single best 3-year stretch I've seen. I've been watching baseball since 2006, so maybe I'm missing something, but this is unbelievable. And he's the everyday center fielder for the New York Yankees, perhaps the single most marquee position in baseball, in the sport, is center fielder for the New York Yankees. This is a position that has seen Mantle, DiMaggio, has seen Bernie Williams, who is a Hall of Exceptional player. It's seen Babe Ruth for a brief time in the 20s.
Yes,
and
that's right.
This generation after generation after generation of tremendous Yankee outfielders, Aaron Judge is right there. Aaron Judge is right there. His 2022 season is right there with the best of Mantle. Maybe not quite as good as the best of Ruth, but he was playing center field every day, so half the day. So you give him that. But Aaron Judge is a special player, and it is a shame that he didn't debut until his age 24 season. And it's a shame his rookie season was his age 25 season, because we are looking at one of the most prodigious hitters in the history of the sport. We are looking at a player with a 166 OPS plus for his career, and a player that, yeah, I know he's 32, but age 30 to 32 seasons, like I said, a OPS plus 195. He is averaging 59 home runs per 162. 59 home runs.
That's insane.
That's an MVP season for Giancarlo Stanton. And he's just doing that on the regular. I don't know.
On the average,
on the average. It's absurd.
It's crazy because that 62 homer season he had when he won MVP, we were like, all right, that's like, how in the world could you possibly ever replicate that? Well,
I was on the podcast saying that. I was like, this is the high water mark for Judge. Judge is unbelievable, man.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that like some of his numbers this year are literally better than his numbers from that MVP season. And I remember last year he got hurt again. I know it feels like he got hurt, 2018, 2019, 2020. He finally stayed healthy, and we saw how great he could be. Then he gets hurt again. But then when he came back last year, I know he struggled a little bit, just like the rest of the team. But then he had a monstrous last 6 weeks of the season. Again, he struggled to start this year. He's tearing the cover off the ball ever since. When he's on a roll, you can't get him out. I mean, seriously, miss me with the whole, oh my God, he strikes out too much. Dude, I don't care how much you strike out when you're hitting like him. Seriously. I don't care about your swings and misses or anything, because when you're making contact, the ball's over the fence. And
exactly.
Yeah, your point about the quote unquote cheap home runs at Yankee Stadium. Yes, He does occasionally get them, but most of the home runs he hits, much like Giancarlo Stanton and Juan Soto, are well clear of the fences at any stadium. So, yeah, Aaron Judge, this stretch has been special. And it brings me to another question for you guys, though, because the American League has a few very, very elite players right now. You got, Judge with 17 homers. By the way, he's leading the AL in doubles, which I didn't realize. But he's not even leading the American League in home runs, and he's tied with Gunnar Henderson for second behind Kyle Tucker, who's also having a great year. Then you throw in a guy like Bobby Witt Jr., and then his own teammate Juan Soto is having a great year too. Where do you see Judge ranking up there compared to the rest of the AL MVP field right now?
So at this exact moment, right now, he's number one. Is he the clear-cut number one? Absolutely not. But is he number one? Yes. Because I'm looking at what he's done right now. He is leading all the American League in doubles, but is also leading all of baseball in walks, in slugging, in OPS, in total bases even. This guy is playing the ball at an unreal rate. He is absolutely clobbering the ball, playing decent defense while he's at it. But when you are leading the league in a bunch of stats, including some big ones, including, I don't know, OPS, that is worthy of the number one spot here. It's kind of funny that he doesn't have the top OPS plus, but it's still 190. And
pretty good.
That's yeah, to quote John Boyce, pretty good.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's all right.
It's fine.
But yeah, no, looking at what he does right now, he has according to Baseball Reference here for 2024 so far, he right now has a 3.1 offensive WAR and a 0.1 defensive WAR. He is helping his team defensively, is making the team offensively.
He is on pace to have an Albert Bell 95 season. Ooh. 50 doubles, 50 home runs.
Yep.
That is bananas. Now, granted, Albert Bell didn't win the MVP because voters didn't like him, but that's a story for another podcast. Judge is also on pace for 127 walks, which is absurd. Just what a talent. I will say right now, Aaron Judge is not my MVP. I think it matters that he was not horrible, but not judged for a month, while the Bobby Witts of the world, the Gunnar Hendersons, the Tuckers of the world have been consistent. 2 months in, I will take the player who was elite for both months as opposed to the player who was for a month and then the best player in baseball for a month. So I will say that, but he's in that conversation with Soto, with Tucker, with Henderson, with Witt. But if Judge has any sort of, if this continues at all, Judge wins the MVP. And I think Judge should be the favorite. I know betting odds have it as Soto right now. That's fine. But I think Judge should be the favorite, just like Mookie should be the favorite in the National League, that you have a Hall of Fame level talent. You have an inner circle Hall of Fame talent at the peak of his powers. I'm not betting against him. I feel really bad for not picking Aaron Judge to win MVP. Looking back on it, I picked Alex Bregman. I'm a moron. Alex is shaking his head for those listening to the podcast, or nodding his head, rather. Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball. And I think he will win the MVP. Please, for the love of all things holy, let him play 162 games. He's on pace to play 162 games. I want to see it. I want to see 50 home runs and 50 doubles and 125 walks and a 1 dot something OPS and a OPS plus above 180. I want to see it. Inject it into my veins, please.
I have a weird question for you guys, and again, this is off the cuff a little bit here. For Judge, the biggest knock on him that people have had is his strikeouts. Usually, like that's the first thing that people usually go to.
Shocker.
Right? He right now at this moment has 61 strikeouts on the season and 43 walks.
Mm-hmm.
What would you call it for him if he finished with more walks and strikeouts? Like, I feel like at that point that's MVP.
But borderline impossible.
But at that point, like that for the kind of hitter that he is, that number, having that, I think that gets rid of any doubt that potentially he might be one of, if not the greatest Yankee center fielder.
Oh man,
that's gonna be a tough one. That's a tough bit. But that's the thing. Is right now, again, you have to look at the eras played, obviously. You have to look at the talent that came before it. I'm not putting anything off of DiMaggio or Mantle or anything like that. I'm looking at a guy right now that is arguably the best pure power hitter next to Ohtani in baseball.
I wouldn't even say next to, like, I think
he's the best pure power hitter.
He had 62 home runs in a season.
That's fair. You make a great point.
Yeah.
The best power hitter in the game, playing good to great defense, and has plate discipline. That becomes a question if he has a season where he has more walks and strikeouts.
The tough part is that he's like an amazing player, but I feel like, what was it? The thing is that it feels like almost every time he gets out, it's a strikeout,
Mm-hmm.
So I can't see him drawing more walks than strikeouts. He's not quite like an Albert Pujols type where he could homer as many times as he strikes out pretty much. Which reminds me, we didn't even mention Jose Ramirez in this conversation. He's been on a tear in the month of May.
David Fry has a 500 on base percentage. I just want to throw that out there.
I will say, in comparison to the AL MVP field, I picked Soto at the beginning of the year. I still kind of think Soto will take the MVP award home. But, Judge, like Slash said, if he keeps tearing the cover off the ball, I see no reason for him to not win MVP. I see this very much being a 2004 Cardinals type of season for the Yanks, where they get multiple guys in the top 5 of MVP voting. Heck, the 04 Cardinals had 3 guys in the top 5 with Pujols, Roland, Edmonds. I could see this being a one where Judge, Soto, and then one of Volpe or Stanton potentially could rise up there. Now, that's a lot to ask for because, like
Luis
I said,
Gil.
or Luis Gil, yeah. But like I said,
unreal.
Bobby Witt Jr., Kyle Tucker, Gunnar Henderson, Jose Ramirez. It's a stacked field in the American League this year. It's almost like the 2006 and 2007 NL MVP races. So we'll see how this all unfolds. It is a lot to live up, though.
What a time to be a fan, then, being able to see all these incredible talents all at once.
Yeah. Also, to Splash's point about the Yankees center fielders, I remember Foolish Baseball made a whole video about how the Yankees have like a dynasty in center field with all their amazing outfielders, with Mantle and DiMaggio and all that. Mickey Mantle obviously is one of the all-time greats. And Judge, the fact that he's even mentioned in the same sentence, in the same sentence as Mickey Mantle is
incredibly mentioned, by the way. This is not he looks like Mickey Mantle out there, and you're talking about like Melky Cabrera. With all
Well, it's like that guy who called in, the guy who called into Mike Francesa's show the one time and asked him how Mickey Mantle won the Triple Crown if he isn't a horse. I don't know.
God, he's just that talented, man. He can win. It's like he wins baseball trophies and the Kentucky Derby all at once.
Oh my
exactly.
Legendary.
To Alex's point with the strikeouts, Aaron Judge is 6'7". I personally think it's unrealistic to ask him to not strike out a bunch. It's just a ginormous strike zone.
Oh no,
I know like the traditionalist baseball fans will say, well, the high strikeouts are bad. Yes, I understand. But if you look at, here's a task for you. If you're watching the podcast or listening on YouTube, whatever, however you're watching, consuming this, pause. After I'm done talking, pause, go to Baseball Reference and look up the list for all-time strikeout leaders. It is the top of the list. There's a lot of guys that are either in the Hall of Fame, hit 600 home runs like Sammy Sosa and Alex Rodriguez, or are Adam Dunn. The top of the list of the most strikeouts ever, the bad thing to do in baseball. You have Hall of Famer, Sammy Sosa, Adam Dunn, Hall of Famer. Just check it out. Just check it out. There's a reason these guys strike out a lot because they're unbelievable hitters and are players in the Hall of Fame. Aaron Judge had 200 strikeouts in the season. He finished second in MVP voting.
Would you guys like to take a guess what the number one is?
Reggie Jackson.
Right now.
That's
Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
Reggie Jackson.
Very much Hall of Famer. 2,597 strikeouts.
Yeah. Then what? Second's Tomey.
Yeah, Jim Tomey.
Yeah, Tomey. Yeah.
600
also in the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, 600
First ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, then it goes Dunn, Sosa, Rodriguez, Miggy. Then Andres
500
Galarraga.
home runs, 3,000 hits, two-time MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Andres Galarraga,
Best
Justin
pure
Upton,
hitter of the
Turner,
era. Like that, the pure hitter gets like attributed to him. And he's sixth in strikeouts.
Yeah.
There's a brief little trivia question for you guys here, then. Who is the active player that has the most strikeouts currently in baseball?
It should be Justin Upton's not active anymore, though.
No, he's not. He announced his retirement.
Because Upton, I think, would have been the correct answer.
Yeah, Upton would have been the correct answer.
I think active is
Stanton.
It's Stanton. Yeah,
I feel it has to be Stanton.
At 1,882.
A Hall of Fame level player, by the way. He
exactly.
might not get there because he's been hurt and whatnot, but a Hall of Fame caliber player.
Like, it's impressive. I'm looking at the top 50 right now, right? And almost all of them are Hall of Fame caliber or already in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, there's a few names that I won't agree with being in the Hall of Fame, but some of those are because of my personal biases.
Like Adam Dunn, with all due respect, is not a Hall of Famer, but Adam Dunn hit 40 home runs like 17 different times. So
exactly,
it's not like a Hall of Famer for lack of hitting. It's a Hall of Famer for lack of everything else. But yeah, maybe an individual season like Ezekiel Tovar's on pace to strike out 212 times. Okay, fair enough. But there's a reason some of the best hitters in baseball strike out a lot. Because they're the best hitters in baseball. Yeah, Mark Reynolds.
Ryan Howard.
In the top.
Ryan Howard the year he won MVP.
Yeah, Chris Davis had some big strikeout seasons, but hit 50 home runs.
Just getting more like things for the people to go take a look at when they do go look up this list. In the top 30 of players that have struck out their entire career, only 5 have less than 300 home runs.
Yeah, exactly.
5.
Yeah, there's a trade-off. I mean,
exactly.
We've had the conversations like, do you want like a Luis Ariz type who never strikes out, but it's only getting singles and the occasional double, or do you want a more, Aaron Judge type? And if you look at batting average, okay, I'll take Luis Ariz. But then you think about what Judge brings from power aspect. Or I had the comparison with Stanton the other day at the little Baseball Reference infographic, and like they're comparable hitters, and Ariz has a batting average that's 80 points higher and gets on base more because of the batting average. But then Stanton, when he hits the ball, is getting more doubles and home runs. So there's a trade-off there. And you can't – a team of all Stantons might not win the World Series. A team of all Arizes isn't going to win the World Series. You want a mix of both.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, so anyways, we started talking, Hall of Fame type things. I'm sure Aaron Judge will end up in the Hall of Fame at some point, but last week, yeah, for sure. But for the last week, there has been another guy getting thrown around in this Hall of Fame conversation, and all of a sudden it's becoming a hot topic on the internet. As Salvador Perez, Royals captain, leading the American League in batting average right now, but I put out a tweet the other day about this from the Losses Above Replacement Twitter account. It's comparing 3 guys who are all catchers and, their Hall of Fame candidacy. So I just thought I'd review that right now. Let's do this. So player A.
You're not going to try to ask me who the 3 are this time?
No, because we already figured that one out. You guys probably, if you follow us, you've already seen the result of this tweet. For those of you who don't know, Alex took a very long time to figure out who players A, B, and C were. So,
okay, to give me a little bit of credit, I had just woken up. I was very tired, and my brain was very foggy. But...
All right, well, whatever you say. So player A, let's do this. I'm going their triple slash line, the WRC plus, their home runs, their hits, their Fangraphs WAR, and their framing numbers, all across the board. So player A hit 273, 374, 474. That's a 123 WRC plus, 275 homers, 1,664 hits, 40.9 Fangraphs WAR negative, 43.9 framing runs. Now, I'll put it this way. The first two guys played largely in an era where framing was not tracked. So just keep that in mind. Player B, 288, 366, 378. Only 99 WRC plus, but he leads these guys with 2,195 hits, 75 homers only, but 36.5 Fangraphs WAR, largely because he was very fast. Also, negative 23 framing runs. Then we have player C, 269 average, 304 only on base percentage, but 462 slugging percentage, 104 WRC plus, 1,471 hits, 255 homers, 17.2 Fangraphs WAR, and negative 116.7 framing runs. Now, I'll reveal those three players right now. Player A is Jorge Posada. Player B is Jason Kendall. Player C is Salvador Perez. For those of you who do not know, Jorge Posada and Jason Kendall both fell off the Hall of Fame ballot after a year. But now all of a sudden, player C, who has 17.2 Fangraphs WAR, Salvador Perez, is being thrown around as an inner circle Hall of Fame. Guys, I'll let you guys go first on this. What are your thoughts on this whole debate? Because I'm just kind of confused.
So I'll talk on this one first for a moment, and I can see the arguments, right? I can see what they're talking about, because while the MVP numbers aren't there, what he has meant to a franchise has been absolutely incredible, right? He has been a stalwart catcher for a team. It's the same reason why Edgar Martinez was so beloved, was that he's played his entire career with one team. He is the legend of the Royals at that point. And while not having the MVP numbers, he does have 8 All-Star selections, 5 Gold Gloves, a World Series MVP here, and 4 Silver Sluggers, which, again, some people may call it fraudulent on some of that, one being our own Splash as well. But again, well right to criticize on that point. Excuse me. But take a look directly at the hard stats on this one. And there's some kind of damning evidence here. 2 of the years that he got his Silver Slugger, he had an OPS plus of under 100. Below average, he was getting Silver Slugger votes. There are times where he was in the top. He's had 3 times in his career where he was in the top 25 in MVP voting. In those years, he had an OPS plus of 105, an OPS plus of 95, and then one incredible year of 2021 where it was 128. Excuse me. So sorry, I'm going to go back on one thing I said. I was looking at the wrong number there. In 2020, the shortened season, he had an OPS plus of 159 there. And yeah, it was 105 for the other one. That's okay. Like, don't get me wrong. The 159 and the 128 are very good, but I'm not amazingly impressed by it, especially for those based on the highlights for him. The highest OPS he's ever had was in that 2020 year, where he had a 159 OPS plus. Currently, he has 155. But again, we're not even through May yet. So let's get into the rest of the season. I'm looking at the stats here, and not much is really jumping out. The biggest number that jumps out to me is the 5 Gold Gloves and the 8 All-Star selections, which even those, you have to kind of look a little bit deeper to find anything on it. Here, the Gold Gloves, these are during a time when there maybe were better catchers defensively than him, but his name got him the thing. It's very similar to like a Nolan Arenado syndrome at that point, where your name gets you a lot of Gold Gloves. And
I do have some pushback. Arenado, it's not like the years he like beat out Hayes. It wasn't like a Hayes lapped him. It was Hayes is better by like 1 or 2 DRS.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that it's not like. I'm not saying that it's like the end all be all. Your name is this. You get the thing. I'm saying, but it does give you a bump. That's what I'm saying. Yes,
that's fair.
And you look at everything else on it, and it just doesn't impress. I'm looking over the course of his batting stats from 2011 all the way to now. There's only 1 year where he was even a leader of anything. And that was in that 2021 season where he jumped out to 48 home runs and 121 RBIs. In any year before that, he did not even eclipse 27. 27 is the highest he had gotten before that in 2017. RBIs, the highest he had ever gotten any other year besides that, is 80. Which, by the way, he actually got 80 RBIs 3 times in his career. As a hitter, he's good, not great. A career OPS plus of 106. Okay, well, let's go take a look at defense then. He's got a few gold gloves to him. Okay, let's go take a look at him. So, looking at it overall, he's been incredibly okay. A few really good years. But look at his own total fielding runs above average. He's had a lot of pretty solid years. 2016, again, 15 runs, pretty solid on that front of it. But nothing is standing out. And when you're a Hall of Famer, if you're to be a Hall of Famer, you have to stand out from the crowd. And that doesn't mean you have to be absolutely number one. I'm not going to say that ever because that's just a bad thing to try and go for. But you do need to at least make yourself noticed. And during these times, like, the only thing that makes him noticed is just how consistent he was. He was consistently good. He was not consistently great. He is a good guy, a good ball player that people like and respect, being a good clubhouse guy, and being one that has been the face of a franchise for over a decade now. So, with that being said, he's not a Hall of Famer in my opinion. I think he probably will get through the first year of it just from the arguments and from the name recognition. But looking at the stats, I don't think he deserves it. As much as I'm very much a believer in the big Hall idea, we include more people in the Hall of Fame, I don't think the numbers match up.
So I think I have a nuanced approach here that I can buy the candidacy if you just look at the accolades and you say, oh, well, you do the John Morosi comparison to Johnny Bench and Pudge Rodriguez. There are only 3 catchers with 250 home runs and 5 gold gloves. It's Johnny Bench, Ivan Rodriguez, and Salvador Perez. And you throw in he's a World Series MVP, he's a team captain, 1 club guy, 8-time All-Star. And okay, I can buy that. I can buy that an 8-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glover, 4-time Silver Slugger, World Series MVP, played his entire career with one franchise. I can buy that player as a Hall of Famer. I can buy him. And then you throw in home run title, RBI title, a 9th All-Star game this year in all likelihood, and you throw in a 10th All-Star game with the COVID season because he was great. Okay, I can buy that as a Hall of Famer. Absolutely. But in my research, when I do these things and I make spreadsheets and fill in thousands upon thousands of boxes, and I went back and gave out, who would I give the Gold Glove to this season? Because Gold Gloves did not exist before the mid-1950s. And Silver Sluggers did not exist before 1980. So it's not a fair comparison to say, oh, well, Salvador Perez is more Silver Sluggers than Yogi Berra. You are missing something there because there was no Silver Slugger when Yogi Berra played, or no Silver Slugger when Johnny Bench played, or no Silver Slugger for chunks of, Gary Carter's career, for example. So I go back and look at this, and I only give Salvador Perez 2 Silver Sluggers, and I only give Salvador Perez 1 Gold Glove, and I don't give Salvador Perez the 2015 World Series MVP. I probably give it to probably Wade Davis, honestly. And then the vibes kind of change, and that's not even looking at Fangraphs WAR. And I don't necessarily buy that Mike Zunino is a better player since 2011 than Salvador Perez. I don't necessarily buy that. Fangraph says yes. I don't necessarily buy it. I don't necessarily buy that I would take Will Smith's chunk of his career over Salvador Perez. Fine. But what I do buy is I think Salvador Perez benefited from an era of weak catching in the American League. And I think he benefited from being on one team, and some of his competition hopping over from the National League in the eyes of Russell Martin and Brian McCann, Yasmani Grandal. Those are players who had some great seasons in the National League with the Brewers, the Dodgers, the Braves. And I give all of them American League awards when they hopped over. I gave Yasmani Grandal the 2020 a Silver Slugger because Salvy didn't qualify for the batting title, by the way. I give Russell Martin the 2016 Silver Slugger. I give Russell Martin the 2016 Gold Glove and Brian McCann the 2014 Gold Glove. And you get into this funk of, if you just look at the accolades Salvador Perez earned and the writers gave him, okay, I can buy the Hall of Fame candidacy. I do not buy, looking under the hood, I do not buy those seasons as Gold Glove or Silver Slugger caliber seasons. I do not buy the World Series MVP as a World Series MVP caliber World Series. I think some of the All-Star games, we talk about it every year. The graphic circulates with the 8 Royals and Mike Trout. Remember that graphic? Who's leading in the All-Star votes?
From 2015, yep.
Right. We joked all the time that Royals fans were stuffing the ballots. And Salvador Perez gets help in those seasons because he was not Salvy in those seasons. He was like fine defensively, below average offensively, even for a catcher. And he gets the starting nod in the All-Star game, in part because the Royals have a great fan base and they showed out to vote for their really good teams. And they're going to do the same thing this year. I would imagine Bobby Witt starts at short. Oh, that's a good one. Volpe, Witt, Henderson at short. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
I would imagine Salvador Perez starts at catcher. Deservingly so, yes. But I would imagine he starts at catcher again. So I buy, if you just look at the accolades and you don't do any more critical thinking, you look at the Baseball Reference page and he's 8 All-Stars, 5 Gold Gloves, 4 Silver Sluggers. I buy that. I do buy that. And I buy when John Morosi goes on MLB Network and says he's a Hall of Famer, or I can buy that our friend on Twitter, Not Gaetti, can say he's on pace to be a Hall of Famer. I can buy that. But being the historical baseball mind I try to be, I do not buy the underlying metrics.
Yeah.
So that's my spiel.
Yeah, well, just to sort of put a bow on this discussion, you could say, oh my God, now Fangraphs overvalues framing or something like that because, Fangraphs does value framing heavily, which is why I trust Fangraphs when I evaluate catchers more than Baseball Reference. So let's look at Baseball Reference then. Jaws. Jaws is a good thing, good tool to use to evaluate whether or not a player should be in the Hall of Fame. Of qualified catchers, Salvador Perez is 32nd in Jaws. Of the catchers ahead of him who are not in the Hall of Fame, if Thurman Munson and Gene Tennis and Bill Freehan and Jorge Posada, if all those guys are not in the Hall of Fame, heck, let's use a guy from his own franchise too, Jim Sundberg. If those guys aren't in the Hall of Fame, I think Perez has had a great career, but if Perez isn't in the Hall of Fame, I don't see how if those guys aren't in the Hall of Fame, I don't quite see how Perez can make it in. And then you could say, I know Splash is a big fan of Brian McCann. Brian McCann has a Hall of Fame case because of Fangraphs. He's one of those guys, and same with Russell Martin. Fangraphs gives them a Hall of Fame case. Baseball Reference, not so much. Yeah. The issue is that you look at the two websites, and neither of them say Salvador Perez is necessarily a Hall of Famer. Now, I'll say one last thing before we move on, which is that if Perez hits 100 more home runs, say, in the next 5 seasons, if he plays that long, I'm more than willing to revisit this conversation. To Not Gaetti's point, and to what Splash said in response to that, we are not trying to hate on Salvador Perez. He's a very good player. He's meant a lot to the Kansas City franchise. He's their team captain, but I can't see a case for him making it to the Hall of Fame.
And again, his career is not over. This is not a in memoriam or a
he's 34 right now. So
yeah. So there are catchers that have played late into their 30s or even to 40. And I don't necessarily know if I want him playing first base or DH because you have Vinny Pasquantino over there. But still, there is a potential roster spot for Salvador Perez as he ages gracefully. Mm-hmm. I question if he will age gracefully because it's a heavy power profile and he's like a big guy and big power hitters don't tend to age super well, and he doesn't have the best eye at the plate. If he had, say, Mike Zunino's walk rate at Sterling 7.1%, which is still below average, I would trust it a little bit more. I like Brian McCann had a 9.4% walk rate. Okay, I buy that more. Buster Posey had a 10% walk rate. I can buy that he had a great season in his retirement year. Absolutely.
Yes.
I don't necessarily know if I buy Salvador Perez continuing to be productive. If he is productive, I'm open to having this conversation. And I don't necessarily buy that Zunino or the chunk of Will Smith's career so far or Yan Gomes are better players than Salvador Perez. I don't necessarily buy that. Since 2011, Salvador Perez ranks 15th in catchers in F4. That's not great. It's only at 17.
It's middle of the pack.
Yeah, it's above Wilson Ramos, who we are not having Hall of Fame conversations about Wilson Ramos.
No, we are certainly not. I'll say that right now.
He's below Travis d'Arnaud. We're not having Hall of Fame conversations about any of these guys. No. Posey, Hall of Famer. Yadier Molina, Hall of Famer. Yasmani Grandal, 100%. Great player, not a Hall of Famer. JT Realmuto, career in progress. Russell Martin, my Hall of Fame, probably not the real Hall of Fame. Jonathan Lucroy, good player. Brian McCann, my Hall of Fame again. Then Miguel Montero, Wilson Contreras, Travis d'Arnaud, Tyler Flowers, Yan Gomes, Will Smith, Mike Zunino, and then Salvador Perez. And for what it's worth, Sean Murphy is 19th on the list. Adley Rutschman is 23rd, and William Contreras is 28th. So,
and those guys just came up in recent years. So
precisely.
And Cal Raleigh is going to own Cooperstown eventually.
He's not quite in the top 30, but he probably will be by the end of the season because Fangraphs loves him.
He's also just the best catcher the best catcher that's ever existed, but that's okay.
Well, only because Sean Murphy's missed the last 50 games. Cal Raleigh is, in fact, 32nd. So he will be on the list by the end of the season.
He'll get there,
He will be passing Braves legend Evan Gattis and Triples legend Evan Gattis. One spot ahead of David Ross.
Anyways, that's sort of that'll close the book on our Salvador Perez discussion. In case, Splash, though, this is your time to shine because it's time for our everyone's favorite segment of every week, which is trivia. Splash has today's segment prepared, so take it away.
Okay. We talked about catchers a lot. Now we're going to talk about the other end of the spectrum. These are closers. These are
let's go.
How to accumulate saves, and that's the name of the game today. You are accumulating saves. This is in the spirit of our infield war conversation a couple weeks ago. You have to pick 10 players. Both of you pick 10 teams in this case, 10 teams, and you have to accrue the most total saves by that team's franchise leader for a single season. So
franchise leader for a single season.
Yes. So single season, most saves.
Okay. And this is history, right? Like of all time.
Yes, this is all time. But you only have to name the team.
Their number one season?
Yes, just their number one season. So you don't need to don't need to know that, you don't need to know that Raisel Iglesias had 30-something saves yesterday. I wish last year.
That would be insane if you had 30 saves
That'd
in
be
one
crazy,
day.
Yeah.
That is Little League pitching right there. We're going to send this guy out for 30 different games on the same day.
So we're each naming 10.
Yes, you're each naming 10. And if you suck, I have a chance to win.
All right, so you can't let that happen.
All right.
So
we can do this, Mac. We can do this.
Yes. One of you pick heads or tails, please.
Heads.
Flip a coin. It's tails. So Mac,
tails never fails.
But this is a snake draft, not the traditional draft. This is a snake draft. So I go and then Alex picks twice. Will take 2. Yes, then Mac, you will take 2. So Mac, your first selection.
My first selection is the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
I wonder why. Alex, it is your selection. You get 2 selections.
Yep. I'm going to go with the Padres.
Okay.
And I'm going to then also go with the Yankees.
Okay. 2 reasonable picks right there. Mac, back to you, pal.
All right. I'm going with the Mariners and the White Sox.
Okay. Alex, 2 picks.
I'm going to go with the Dodgers, and I'll go with let's see here. I'm trying to think of like who have been like some of the best closers as of in one season. Then I'm gonna go with the Mets.
All right, Mac, you have 2 selections.
All right, I'm going to go with the Bravos.
Okay.
And the Cubs.
Okay.
All right, Alex.
I'm going to go now with the A's, and I will go with the Guardians or Cleveland.
Okay, Mac, your 2 picks.
So wait, we've done. I've had 5 right now.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the Baltimore Orioles.
Okay.
And I gotta think about this for a second. Sorry, Orioles the first one, and then I think this team has a couple of high save seasons. I'm gonna go with the Rays.
Yeah, Rays were a team I was thinking of.
All right, Tampa is off the board. All right, Alex, 2 selections.
I'm going to go with the Pirates.
The Irate Pirates.
And I will go because honestly, the name that came to my mind was Mark Melanson.
Mr. Melancon himself, Braves legend.
Yep. And then I'll also go with I'm going to go with the Red Sox. Have the Red Sox been taken yet?
All right. The Red Sox, solid pick. One of the 30 teams in baseball.
I have 3 left, right? So I get 2 here.
So you get 2 here. Alex gets 2, and then you finish.
Okay. I have to remember all the teams right now, too. The Detroit Tigers are going to be 1.
Yep.
And then my next pick will be the... I'll go with the San Francisco Giants.
All right.
I think that's a good one. That's a very good pick, actually.
Solid
I'm surprised I didn't think about that one.
All right. Alex, your turn.
I'm going to go with the Twins.
The Twinkies.
And I will then go with the Astros.
All right. Houston will clear your board. Mac, you make the final selection, sir.
Okay, the last one. I'm going to go. I know that their franchise record was broken when I was in high school, so I know it was pretty high. I'm going to go with the St. Louis Cardinals.
And that is how Mac closes us out. All right, the remaining teams, by the way, Texas, Arizona, Kansas City, Miami, Washington, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Toronto, Cincinnati, and Colorado. Those are my teams, and I accrued a whopping 460 points. So you are trying to clear 460 points.
Okay.
Alex,
I feel confident about that.
You should be.
Are you sure?
Cleared with 497.
Nice.
Your high man, Eric Gagne, had 55 saves for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
You also had Mariano Rivera with 53, Trevor Hoffman with 53. Mac, with a whopping 52.8 average, clears with K-Rod with 62, Bobby Thigpen and Edwin Diaz at 57, John Smoltz 55, Randy Myers 53, Jim Johnson 51. Closed out with Fernando Rodney of the Rays, Jose Valverde of the Tigers, Rod Beck and Brian Wilson with the Giants, and Trevor Rosenthal with the Cardinals. The best player you guys missed was Francisco Cordero of the Rangers.
49. Yep.
The worst pick, Alex, regretfully, you took the Astros. Probably shouldn't have taken the Astros. Only 44 with Jose Valverde and Billy Wagner.
That's fair. Yeah, I was thinking of Wagner, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Probably the worst value pick was taking Jose Mesa for Cleveland with your 6th pick. He only had 46.
That's fair. I was trying to remember if whether or not he had a thing or if
he did. He was on a different. He had multiple teams. He also was Philadelphia.
Well, also he saved 46, but that was in that strike shortened year. And also he got 4th MVP voting that year, so I can't really blame you for taking him there. Honestly, I feel like people almost forget that Bobby Thigpen held the record before K-Rod, and then obviously
I completely forgot that that Fernando Rodney was the saves leader for the Rays.
Yeah, because I know that he had a big year. There was a year Rafael Soriano had a really big year, and Alex Colomé had a big year.
Alex Colomé was almost an answer here.
Yeah,
as opposed to Alex Colomé
1 year.
Yes.
I know that. What's his name? Brad Boxberger led the league in saves for them 1 year, but it was like 41 or something, and he wasn't actually that good
1 year.
He also has one of the best Players Weekend jerseys of all time.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Some other fun names: Tom Gordon, MLB Power Pros legend. He was the Boston Red Sox.
Flash Gordon.
Wade Davis with the Rockies.
43. Yep.
3 Jose Valverdes, 2 Jose Mesas, 1 John Smoltz, who is in the Hall of Fame as a starter, John Axford, Joe Nathan, Iris Familia, who Mac has probably a love-hate relationship with, and the GOAT, Fernando Rodney. So
true.
There's Fernando Rodney. He's all over the place. Yeah, thank you for putting that together, Splash. As you guys could probably guess, saves are like one of the few counting stats I'm right on top of when it comes to keeping track of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we're going to wrap up the show the way we wrap up every show, which is with the moment to ourselves, the 60 seconds, give or take a few, to speak about whatever the heck you want to. So who here wants to go first with that? Alex, I saw your hand go up first, so we'll start with you. 1 second, I'll count you down. All right, your time starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
So I'm excited right now because I'm getting to play a baseball game not too long after we're recording this. And in the first time that I've gotten to play legitimately in years. I think the last time I played a semi-organized game of baseball was before the pandemic. And just my body hasn't been in as great of shape, and my body hasn't been working as well. I've been busy. And today I got an opportunity where, like, hey, it's a Monday. Let's people who want to come out and play. And I've lost 20 pounds since since November. And my knees are stronger. My body is stronger. I feel like I can at least go and try today. I know how much playing baseball really improves my mental and physical health. So I am very excited to get out to go try and play, whether it be pitching, first base, hitting, any of that. I'm just very excited for it. Whew.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I wish I could play baseball, man. That's I feel like there's like barely any like adult rec baseball leagues in the area.
Yeah, no,
for me, because I mean,
like, this isn't even a rec league. This is a pickup league. Just a bunch of guys come by and we draft a team and play.
That sounds. I mean, that's like taking it back to childhood. You know, it's
right?
the way you.
That's why
it's like backyard. You know,
100%.
Which
I mean, dude, I've actually been watching a lot of backyard baseball content as of late, and it's been a lot of fun to go back and watch like some of the true goats of the game come into.
Oh yeah, like Pablo Sanchez, and, Keisha Phillips, and Ahmed Khan. Yeah, no, it's.
By the way, one
sick.
of the biggest snuffings of all time is in the GameCube backyard baseball, where Pablo is barely okay.
He got nerfed.
He got nerfed so hard. He has maxed out running, which is cool, but his power is like half. Like,
yeah,
dudes, how do you not respect the GOAT?
Yeah, some kids probably never knew how good Pablo Sanchez was, which is unfortunate.
It's truly tragic.
The MVP, really.
Anyways, you know what? Splash, do you want to go next, or should I go next?
Sure, I can go.
All right, your time starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, folks. I have lost my favorite baseball player and my favorite football player to season-ending injuries now twice. That sucks. And it's not even... And of course, sucks for me. It sucks for the player. That's the more important thing. Who cares about me? Unironically, actually. But it just, injuries are the worst. And I wish we could like shut them off like we do in the video games. You know, I play MLB Power Pros and I turn injuries off, or I play Madden, I turn injuries off, NBA 2K, I turn injuries off, FIFA. I don't think you can turn injuries off, but if you could, I would, because I feel like in a lot of ways, sports end up being more in like that fantasy realm, that I want to see Ronald Acuña play 1,620 games in 10 years. I want to see Lamar Jackson play 17 games a season, or 16 because they get the number 1 seed and are resting the last week. You know what I mean? I want to see LeBron James play 82 games a year for 20 years, basically like he actually did. That is the best part about sports. To me, the best part about sports is when you look at the history and you look at these players that, in baseball's case, played 3,000 games, accrued 3,000 hits or 3,500 hits, and hit 500 home runs. You have the Hank Aaron's of the world. Carl Yastrzemski played 3,400 games. Pete Rose played 3,000 games. Ichiro didn't play in Major League Baseball until 2001 and still had 3,000 hits and thousands of games played and hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of plate appearances every single season. And it just sucks that, you know, my favorite player and one of the most exciting players in the game, perhaps the best player in the National League, is going to miss about 400 games in a 5-year span. Part of that's not his fault with the COVID, and part of it is there's 2 kind of fluky ACL injuries, but it stinks, man. And it stunk when Lamar went out, and it's like, well, I don't want to watch the Ravens play, right? Or I don't want to watch the Braves play. You're missing that electricity factor, and injuries are the worst. So,
yeah, no, and I mentioned earlier, I mean, I lost my childhood hero to injuries. It ended his career at the age of 34, and I feel like, you know, I remember when David Wright announced his retirement, and it was like, I can't believe like the guy was, you know, he was like the best player in franchise history, and all of a sudden he's like best position player in franchise history, and all of a sudden he's gone. Like, we can't get him back. So, anyways, I'll get started on my time in 3, 2, 1. So, I just wanted to shout out one of my old high school teammates named Dylan, who he requalified for Olympic trials this weekend. That is super cool. This is a guy who worked his tail off. I remember when he first moved back to the States after he was living in South Korea. And, you know, it was, you know, we were about the same speed, and all of a sudden he just shot up and took off, you know, became Division I swimmer, goes to Harvard. He qualified for the 2020 trials. Then last week in Atlanta, he missed the cut by 4 100ths. He needed to requalify. He just missed out. Comes back to New York this weekend, swimming next to his younger brother, and makes the cut in the 200-meter breaststroke, qualifying by over a second. So going his fastest time probably in 4 years since he started college. And I think it's super awesome. It's great seeing hard work get rewarded. And it came through, and I can't wait to see what happens in Indianapolis next month. Anyways, 100%.
Yeah,
that'll
awesome.
do it for. Yeah, no, I'm super excited for him. He's like I said, he works his tail off, and Olympic trials. I unfortunately am, so I'll be in Indianapolis that week, but I'm not getting there until the day after his event, which sucks, but it's still cool. I'm going to be down the road competing at a different natatorium for Masters Nationals, and we're, by the way, under a month, actually probably closer to 2 weeks away from Olympic trials at Lucas Oil Stadium. Yes, there's a swimming pool in a football stadium being put in place, which is going to be, I think, amazing. I'm all sorts of confused by it, but it'll be fun, I'm sure. But anyways, that'll do it for our moment to ourselves and for our show. Make sure to let us know what you guys think about what we said today at LAR_baseball. Do you think Salvador Perez is a Hall of Famer? Do you think Aaron Judge is a Hall of Famer? Is Aaron Judge your MVP? I mean, let us know whatever you think at LAR_baseball on Twitter and on Instagram. You can follow myself on Twitter at Mathias_A_K. Follow Alex at the Sports Guy 242 and follow Splash at Mr. Splashman 19. You'll still be getting this every Tuesday morning from us. So from all of us at LAR, thank you for listening. Stay safe, and I hope to see you all real soon.